Our next client is from Dublin. I think our only Irish client, so I always call him my favorite Irish client because that way I can be in integrity. But Gerard and I actually met face-to-face about 2.5 years ago. We did our first event in the UK in Slough, right outside of London. And Gerard flew over from Dublin and a client and become a friend. I really enjoyed Gerard as a human being. A lot of fun. And so he began the journey with us a little over 2 years ago. Welcome. Thank you for investing your time with us today.
You're welcome, Mike. Great to be here. And I've enjoyed everything I've listened to so far.
Thank you. So you've kind of had a little bit of a roller coaster, and you jump on and then you skyrocket, then you level off a little. And then I think you fixed it like this year based on what you kind of told us. Why don't you walk everyone through that a little bit? Because this is a whole thing with, and he's in Europe where it's tighter than in the States, and he's having, correct me if I'm wrong, your best year so far?
Yeah, phenomenal year. Yeah. So
where there's, Europe is much tight. It's not where we are in the recruiting space. It's come back from where it was. But why don't you walk everyone through kind of what was that process? What was that shift you took at the beginning of the year to build to the level you have?
Sure. So it goes back a little bit further than the beginning of the year. I think to your point earlier, Mike, I have had a roller coaster. So I've been on this program with you guys now for about coming up on 3 years in July. And I think what happened to me was that I was one of those doubting Thomases at the outset. I didn't believe that anything, with respect Mike Gianta or Kathleen Kirk or anybody else could teach me, that there was anything you guys could teach me about my business that was going to improve it. And really the change for me began back in, I think, July, August last year. So I was attending all of the Recruiter U coaching support calls. I was physically present, but I as soon as I got off those calls, I wasn't implementing. I wasn't, following through on any of the suggestions. So back in July, I took a holiday because I know that you have really advocated the idea that, some great things happen when you take a break from your desk. So I took a week off, much to my wife and kids' delight. I took a week off and I took a week away from the desk, and it didn't work. I didn't even think about work for the week. But one of the things that started coming into my head during that week away was a lot of the subliminal messaging that I would have been getting from those Recruiter U calls. And I made a decision there and then, back on the first week of August, to do a couple of things. First thing was I changed in terms of small change was I started getting up a lot earlier. I got up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'd spend an hour either working on the business, planning, because planning was my big weakness. I never planned. I've been a veteran of this industry now for 21 years. And I can honestly say, until I discovered you guys, I never planned. If something happened, it was coincidental or it was luck. And that's what I would put it down to. So I started planning my days properly. I started exercising. And really from that point on, from August on, what I started to notice was small changes, small things in my mindset, the way I approached calls, the way I spoke with clients. I started to get a lot more, I wouldn't necessarily say more confident, but I started to get a lot more assured in my delivery of the learnings and lessons I've taken from Recruiter U, and small things around, Kathleen is a big believer, and I know you'll love me for saying this, Mike. Kathleen's a huge believer in following the money circle. I genuinely never, the money circle meant nothing to me, really. It went in one ear and out the other, but very simply, for those of you guys on here that don't know what I'm talking about, it's ensuring that on every call, whether it's with a client or a candidate, that you're having a full conversation with them. So even if a client says to me now, I don't have any openings right now, or I don't have any needs, I'm following that conversation and getting a deeper conversation with them about, well, okay, appreciate the timing of my call may not suit you right now, but let's look ahead 6 months down the road. What are your plans for the business? And what type of talent in the market would you like to be kept abreast of? So really what's happened then since August in my business is I've noticed a huge uplift in the number of interviews. I've noticed a huge uplift in the number of conversations I've been having with clients and quality candidates. I've sold 5 engaged searches in the past 3 months. I've actually got to the point now where I've got clients queuing up to give me money on deposit for the next search. And I'm having to hold them off, not disrespectfully, but I'm having to hold them off and say, listen, not right now. I'm happy to take that search on in 6 weeks' time because I'm fully committed to what I've got right now. And they're happy to wait. So, when we talk about...
Can I pause you there 1 sec? Just knowing you a little bit, Gerard.
Sure.
You had a belief. And you know what? I saw the internal war based on all the Q&As we would have together. That you saw retainers as a possibility, but something inside of you said, no one's going to buy them.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. That was always the tension. Like part of you believed and then part of you doubted. And that was for like a year, that was a conflict. I think that was an internal conflict. I mean, you got better at taking assignments and things like that, but what finally sprung that where you went to like, screw this, I'm going I'm going retained.
Committing, making the decision that I wasn't going to just accept the contingency searches I had been accepting. I fired a couple of clients. I fired long-standing clients that I've worked with for years, and I've replaced them with better, newer clients that work on a retained or engaged basis with me exclusively. So really, it comes back to the decision. I had to make that decision. Mike Gianta, with respect, or Kathleen Kirk, or Francis couldn't make that decision for me. I had to make that call. And you're right. I definitely didn't believe that it was possible in my niche or my industry because I'd never tried it before. And I suppose, again, it goes back to what we spoke of earlier about the fear of failure. I was afraid. I was genuinely afraid of that first call with a client to talk to them about an engaged search. But, with the Recruiter U program, the beauty of it is it's a building block process. It's a process. Everything is step by step. You're given, I wouldn't say it's scripted, but you're certainly given a lot of tools going into those conversations that give you the confidence to say, you know what, this opportunity, I'm going to respectfully pass on it because it's not the right time for you or for me to work together. And you're leaving that door slightly ajar for that client to come back to you at a later stage. So it's, I spoke with Tina Marie about this the other day, and I said, for a long time I was like that guy, that in the Bible where the guy goes out and he's sowing seed, and some of the seed lands on rocks and it just doesn't take root. And I was that kind of rocky, thorny ground for a long time. The seeds that the Recruiter U were giving me just weren't really going into embed and weren't taking root. And really what I've noticed certainly in the last 6 to 8 months, is that the systems and the learnings and the lessons that you've collectively taught me, and I say you collectively, all of you have taught me over the last 3 years, it's just started to come through in a torrent. And now I'm starting to see the evidence of it. I mean, I'm now focusing on, I started out at the start of this year thinking my ideal number is X. My ideal number now is X plus Y, because I'm thinking, screw that, I'm going to hit for the stars here. So yeah, I'm having a phenomenal year. And I can't say that it's necessarily market led. I think a lot of it is completely in here. It's completely in my mindset. And you used the phrase earlier about getting out of your own way. I mean, frankly, I was getting in my own way for probably 19 years.
Mm-hmm. We all do. And there's two types of people, right, Gerard? There's the type of person like you that you go, I'm in my own way. And then there's other people that go, well, you don't understand, Gerard or Mike or Kathleen, the niche is this, the market's this, I live in a country with this. Okay. But so now you're stacking you're not, but some people stack evidence that it's the outcome is beyond them. And what I love, just watching you, and I think I've told you this a couple times, is even though you were that rockier, crumbly, stonier or drier ground, is one, we kept throwing seed down. And two, you kept looking for water and dirt. So your persistence and self-awareness. Watching you grow has just been an honor, Gerard.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? You're right. Persistence is part of it, but I think it's about embracing the learnings that I've picked up from Recruiter U. And I mean, it's small things like, you know, I remember a long time ago, you said in one of our calls, you know, to the group, you said, you know, really, you can be doing a lot of the right things, but if you're not generating interviews, everything else really doesn't count for a whole lot. And that really resonated with me because I suddenly looked at my metrics in a whole new way. And I started looking at things like, well, if I'm not generating interviews, why am I surprised that the fees aren't following? So now, I mean, I go back to what I said earlier. I wasn't planned for a long time. I didn't plan my year out. I didn't plan my quarter. I didn't plan my month. My weeks just happened. I was almost like the accidental recruiter that things happen to as opposed to making them happen. And at the start of this year, remember we had a really good call in December about figuring out what our magic number for this year was. So I now know what my magic number for this year is. I know exactly, specifically and precisely how many interviews I need to be setting up per week. I know exactly, specifically and precisely how many calls that I need to generate those interviews. I know exactly, specifically, precisely how many job orders I need to take on to generate those. And the beauty of this program is, if you work the way that Mike and Kathleen and the guys instruct you to work, you actually don't need more volume. You need better quality. And what I'm starting to realize the benefit of now is that I'm getting better quality openings coming through from my clients. And as a result of that, there's a trickle effect. It has a trickle effect of you're speaking to higher quality candidates, you're speaking to better prospects in the market, and you're setting up better interviews. So my focus historically was on placements. I always focused on fees, I always focused on placements. Now my focus is purely on how many interviews do I need to set up this week in order for me to hit my target.
Perfect. So if you were kind of coaching yourself, so one, I heard planning, I heard metrics, really then the light going on. This is what happened with me too, Gerard, is there was a day, and I don't remember it was, and I started to learn metrics, but there was a day when I go, oh my God, the billing number I want is this many interviews per week. Like I knew it a little bit intellectually, and then it was like an energetic soul level thing that this equals this from a total belief standpoint. I was like you, I was a little bit skeptical. So if you had to coach yourself, if you got to go back in time and you were going to coach yourself from where you were at July 2018 to where you've become now, what would Gerard 2021 tell Gerard 2021, here's your first few steps. Here's what you want to start doing. And just trust me, I'm your future self. Trust me, these are the steps you got to start taking right now. What would those be?
First thing I do is get really clear on what I wanted to achieve. That transition from, as you describe it in your program, going from overwhelm, which is frankly where I was in July 2018, to clarity, that's the first step. I think you get to get really clear on what it is you want this business to mean for you and how it's going to serve you. I think, prior to 2018, I viewed, even though I was self-employed and it was a solo and I had a lot of years of experience, I still viewed it as a job. Now I view it as a lifestyle choice. It serves my lifestyle. So that's the first thing. I think you just need to get really clear on what it is you want the business to be and what you want to get out of it. The second thing is you need to plan. And it can't be just in here. It can't be a mental plan. It needs to be written down. It needs to be a plan that will hold you accountable. And it's good to have people that will hold you accountable. I've got plenty of people that I've met through Recruiter U that now hold me accountable for my metrics, that hold me accountable for my daily activities. And it's good to know that you're not the only operator out there working in, albeit a different geography, that's going through exactly the same trauma and exactly the same problems as everybody else. There's very little difference apart from geography between what I do in Dublin and what, frankly, everybody in the United States does. The third thing I would suggest is, and a really important step, and I know Francis does a tremendous work in this space, is it's really about changing your mindset. It's about, getting your head around, your belief system about what this business is. I mean, for a long time, I believed as a solo that, and And again, I'm borrowing your phrase, if it's got to be, it's up to me. I was doing everything. I was doing the invoicing. I was doing the recruit presentations. I was doing the research. I was doing the LinkedIn searching. And I remember very vividly at one stage you said, one of the things that you thought was really helpful for your business was just passing off and outsourcing the stuff you hated doing. So I hate nothing worse than sitting down and writing an article. I now outsource that. I hate nothing worse than typing up a job description. I outsource that. I hate nothing worse than having to go on LinkedIn and trawl through LinkedIn profiles for my candidates. I outsource that. And frankly and honestly, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have believed. So if I was talking to my 3-year-old or a 2018 version, I'd say, first thing is get really clear. Second thing is, change your mindset. And I think the third thing is metrics. Metrics has to be a feature. I mean, I know on a daily basis, I know if I'm not hitting my goals, that's going to have a knock-on effect, be it in terms of my interview output or be it in terms of my fee output. But I mean, as a real metric, I can tell you now that as things stand in Q1 of this year, I'm already on track to bill 5 times more than I did for the entire year last year.
Wow. That's amazing.
My run rate at the moment is on target. I'm on target to bill 16 times more than I did this year.
Wow.
And
you're not 16 times, with all due respect, you're not 16 times better, but the way you think about it, right?
No,
it's small incremental changes.
No, but it's small incremental changes. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Gerard. And somebody put in here, I like the lifestyle perspective. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. There's a belief out there that a lot of people I had, to grow 50% bigger, I have to work 50% harder. No, you want to, how do I 2x my business? How do I grow my business 50%? How do I, over a period of time, maybe 3 or 4x my business and work 25% less? Because there's a whole bunch of things, I'm telling you, and Gerard outlined a bunch of them. Invoicing, research, looking for your own LinkedIn profiles. There's other people that do it a lot less expensively than you do. There's a lot of people, and better, like especially the Boolean stuff and all that. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you coming out here today. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome, and hang out for the rest of the afternoon. But thank you, Gerard.